Welcome to Students Incorporated. I'm your host, Mr. Jason. Join me weekly as my students and I bring you content that's informative, positive, fun, and uplifting. This podcast is created and produced with the help of students from the International Community School of Bangkok. Hey, welcome back to Students Incorporated. I'm your host, Mr. Jason, and today we're exploring student innovation with special guest Patrick, a recent graduate who has bridged the gap between community college and NASA-level research through the BORACLE project. We're going to talk about the InnoEd mindset, the courage it takes to be a solopreneur, and how a journey that started at LA Pierce College led to the cutting edge of science. But that's not all. Later in the show, we'll bring you part 3 of our serial adventure story, The Mystery of St. Augustine. But first, let's hear a quote of the day and get some headline news.
Our quote of the day comes from Steve Jobs, who famously noted, "The only way to do great work is to love what you do." Often we mistake loving what you do for everything being easy or fun, but in reality, this quote is about resilience. Entrepreneurship is a marathon of problem-solving, late nights, and high stakes. If you don't love the mission, you will run out of gas when the road gets steep. Loving your work is the secret weapon that turns obstacles into puzzles to be solved rather than roadblocks to be feared. It allows you to push past good enough and strive for great, simply because you care too much to deliver anything less. This love is the anchor that holds you steady, ensuring that even on the hardest days, you remember exactly why you started. And that's our quote of the day. Now on to some headline news.
Thank you for a quote of the day. Now here's some headline news from around the world. Our first headlines come from Demand Sage and the World Bank. As of this year, the global gig economy has officially surged, with the market valuation projected to hit over $670 billion. What's even more fascinating is a demographic shift. Gen Z now makes up 30% of this workforce. Experts are calling this the era of AI-powered solopreneur. Thanks to new agentic AI tools, individual creators are now able to scale their businesses to 6-figure revenues without ever hiring a traditional team. It shows that the courage to be solopreneur is becoming a standard career path for a generation. Our next 2 headlines are about NASA. First, NASA launches the Orbit Challenge for students innovators. They have officially opened registration for the Orbit Challenge, which stands for Opportunities in Research, Business, Innovation, and Technology. This is a call specifically inviting community college and university students in the USA to take NASA's existing patents and turn them into real-world commercial products. This news is incredibly relevant to our guest today, as it proves that you don't need to be at a massive Ivy League school to take advantage of this opportunity. The door is wide open for student-led innovation in 2026. And finally, our second headline about NASA is also about the University of Cincinnati. The countdown has begun for the launch of Leopards-1, one of the first satellites entirely designed and led by a student team. The student-designed satellite is scheduled to deploy from the International Space Station soon. The satellite will test new lightweight materials that will be used to help protect future astronauts from space radiation. It's a massive win for students innovators, showing that when students are given the tools and the platform, they can also solve complex mysteries and problems. Thank you, and that's our headline news for this episode.
Thank you for the quote and the headline news. It's time to talk with our special guest today. We've been hearing a lot lately about the InnoEd movement, and today we have a living example of that mindset in the studio. Joining us is Patrick, a student innovator who has turned his academic journey into a launchpad for high-level research. Patrick, welcome to the show. Josiah will get us started with our first question.
All right, welcome to the show, Mr. Patrick. Please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do.
Thank you so much for having me, first of all. And I'm so excited to be here. My name is Patrick. I just graduated in 2025 from Cal State Northridge. My major is computer science, and I also double minors in data science and mathematics. And even though I already graduated, but I'm still involved in doing research. So actually, last month, our team just presented the research paper at the conference in the University of Nevada. And one of the paper, I serve as the lead author. Basically, that's it. And beside that, I'm trying to grow my social media presence. So I want to share my stories more to students specifically, to maybe inspire, to maybe motivate them to do something great, to do something outside of the comfort zone. And yeah, that's why I'm here.
So we understand that you study in the United States. So could you please describe your college experience and that journey and how it's helping you today?
I would say I wasn't a smart student or what they call like I wasn't a successful student, let's say like that. Long story short, like I got an F before in my high school and stuff like that. Like I got a 0 from the final grade and stuff. And when I finished my high school, I didn't get accepted to any Thai universities back then. But for some reason, I had a dream that I wanted to go to the US to study abroad. It's like pretty crazy. And then I learned English. I learned English like pretty hard at that time. I couldn't speak, I couldn't write. I think I learned it about a year, like by myself. And I finally took the IELTS test, and it was only 4.5. But then for some reason, I keep researching for the path to go to the US, and I found a way to obtain my visa student based on the 4.5 score, which is I started from community college or CC. And then I was there for 3 years. I received 3 associate degrees and then transferred to Cal State Northridge season.
In that transferring to California State, what challenges did you face in pursuing your higher degree?
When transferring, luckily, all people that I met were very nice, like the professor, the faculty advisor, friends, classmates. I think the main challenge I faced was back then when I about to move from Thailand to the US at first. Like my English is still like not really good, and I have to do a lot of like hard working to keep up with like a new environment. Like I have never learned the full curriculum in English before. I think the main challenge that I faced when transferring to season is all about time management, because I was doing a NASA sponsor research. That was one side, and I also was a student research assistant in my school department, and I also being a full-time student. So 3 of these like took all of my time already. And so it's a lot to do, like maintaining a high GPA, and also like doing assignments from the class, but also doing research. You have to go to conference, prepare for presentation and stuff like that. So I have to learn to prioritize things like ruthlessly and communicate with both the professors and the supervisors like simultaneously. But honestly, the pressure is taught me more than any single class. So I was really grateful for those opportunities that I had.
You mentioned you got involved in the NASA-sponsored research activities. So could you please describe to us more how you got involved in that?
So after transferring, I wanted to do research. I'm not sure why. I just want to try something new, try something excited. So I started to apply to a undergraduate research position, like across the US. I remember maybe 50 or more applications. I got rejected from all of them. Like my email is like rejected, unfortunately, like that. But for some reason, I'm not sure why. Like at the very last day before the semester started, I got accepted to this one, the NASA sponsored research under the organization called ARCS, which stands for Autonomy Research Center for STEAM. STEAM is STEM, but we add the H, which is humanities, and then the rest stay the same. But surprisingly, the topic that I was doing the research, I think that was my most interesting in, which is called BORACLE, and I think we will talk about that later. And to be honest, I think you just need to keep finding the way, and it's all about timing and of course like a little bit of luck.
Going back to that project of BORACLE, can you please describe to us what that actually is?
Okay, so BORACLE is really a large project which has several sub-teams inside. We have like BORACLE Marketplace, BORACLE Platform, BORACLE Application, and then the IA team. But essentially, we are dealing with the wearable devices such as like anything that you can wear, basically like smartwatch, smart glasses, smart headband, even like smart socks, smart t-shirt. So all of that, the problem from the developer side is that the data that we have from them is like a mess. It's like totally all over the place. For example, even the same brand for the smartwatch, you have different format. Let's say Samsung for this one, for this specific type, they record like heart rate every 10 minutes. But then another version might record like every 15 minutes or so. So BORACLE try to be a centralized platform where all the data from hundreds of companies being the same format. That essentially. But my work specifically in IAT, which is stand for Intelligence Algorithm, basically those physiological data such as like heart rate, HRV, SpO2, like sleep data, all of that, we have that. So we use AI and data science technique to deliver actionable health condition prognosis. So basically in the past, we have done arrhythmia detection, which is one of the abnormal heart rate rhythm. But we also have built a model to improve sleep qualities, to detect stress. So stress detection, that's my main lead for the project. And also we do injury prediction, like soccer predictions and other stuff. So just to sum it in one sentence, my work is AI and healthcare.
That's really amazing to hear. So, what has been one of the most exciting part of working on this type of project?
Yeah, I learned so many things. I met so many professionals in various fields, including like those people with the highest status in NASA. And I have had a chance to present our work in several conferences. But the most exciting part is that we have to create something that has no direction because it's a research. We basically build something that requires some novelty, and at the same time we need to communicate and present well. So I had a conversation with the director of the organization, and it stuck with me like since that day. And he said that I'm kind of paraphrasing here. If you are an engineering student, you cannot explain your work to art students in a way they can understand, then your work is useless. So that's kind of harsh, but it's true, right? So I guess the excited part for me is that I need to learn not only the technical skill, but also the communication skill. Because like, I think so many people like focus on technical skill and they're great, they're doing a great job, but then they cannot translate those into like to regular people to understand, and that just stuck with them. So I think if you balance those, it's both important.
All right, moving from what you have done, what does the future hold for you? What are some of your big dreams?
That's a really good question. And honestly, it's a hard one too. Right now, I'm taking some time to explore and reflect after graduation, to be honest. I'm really interested in how AI is transforming, not just in healthcare in my field, but every single industry. Like from the past 3 or 5 years now, everyone's talking about AI, right? But my big dream, I guess, is to create a space or be part of creating a space where three things intersect for one another. So first is AI and technology, and then humanities, and of course learning. Because I believe the future isn't just about building smarter AI anymore. I think the AI is just already beyond. But I think it's making sure that technology serves people in a meaningful ways. By that I mean like, I think we also need to adapt, but then I don't think the goal is to replace human thinking. Like we still have to think, but then AI is a tool, not replacing the whole human.
So, what advice would you give to students graduating this year since you've experienced this already?
Since we kind of touched on AI a little bit, so a lot of I've been working for a lot of students, and they always ask me like what skill to learn, like what subject should they learn, and also like the school also concerns like, oh, what subject should we add, what subject should we just cut it off, like the world is changing rapidly. But I think one skill that people often overlook is learning how to learn, because I think that's also a skill. Like if you pick the meta skill, like you know how to learn, so you know how to pick things fast, even though in the future, if the world is changing, but you still know how to learn that. You still know how to read, how to pick up something and then adapt. So I think it's first, don't just learn tools, but learn how to use the tool as well. And then second, just don't be afraid if your path doesn't look like everyone else, at least like for now. Like the thing is that it's okay to not have it all figured out. If you ask me like what I'm gonna do 5 years later from now, I probably don't know like exactly what I'm gonna do, but it's just you just need to step forward, and sometimes you just also have to open the door, even if it was the wrong door, but that can lead you to the right door. Like sometimes the detour is your own path. So yeah, and lastly, always believe in yourself and don't let your dreams die. Yeah, I had every reason to quit since from the beginning when I got rejected from any Thai universities, like got an F, like got a 0 from the exam, and also I went to the US, and that was crazy. And then someone said like, I'm not gonna make it. And then now people ask why I'm not taking job there and leave. And it was like, no, I'm gonna take another crazy path coming back, and then I'll figure it out.
Thank you, Patrick, for that good advice. Learning how to learn is probably one of the most important skills in our ever-changing society. And having confidence and believing that you can actually do it. All great advice. We'll take a short break now, and then when we return, we'll bring you part 3 of our adventure story titled The Mystery of St. Augustine. We'll be right back, so don't go away.
1, 2, 3, 4.
In 2026, the race for top-tier internships is led by industry giants like NASA, Google, and Goldman Sachs, which remain the gold standard for resume prestige. However, the landscape has shifted toward high-growth sectors with AI, fintech, and sustainability offering the most competitive compensation and career acceleration. Companies like Adobe, Coinbase, SpaceX, and McKinsey are heavily recruiting for specialized roles that bridge technical skill with strategic leadership, often offering competitive hourly rates for top candidates. Securing these positions requires immediate action, as the recruitment cycle for elite programs is now highly front-loaded. Many Big Four accounting firms and investment banks close their applications during the spring season, while tech roles are often filled on a rolling basis. To stand out, candidates must pivot away from generic applications and focus on building a strong digital brand and networking with former interns. The window for the most impactful 2026 opportunities is closing soon. Now is the time to submit your applications and finalize your interviews.
And we are back. For this segment, we will bring you part 3 of our 10-part adventure story titled The Mystery of St. Augustine. But before we jump into part 3, here's a brief recap of part 2.
The El Dorado team arrived in St. Augustine, Florida. After a brief meal that gave them a lead on a local boat captain, they met with the Historical Society. They were met with a crisis. Their contact, Tom Reynolds, revealed that all the primary research documents for the project had been stolen from a secure safe. The theft, which left no trace of forced entry, effectively crippled their official mission before it could begin. As Lieutenant Walsh of the St. Augustine PD launched an investigation, Hawthorne and Amanda realized they now had to rely on their own secret, two-shipwreck theory, a clue unknown to anyone else. The team was then formally introduced via video call to their wealthy and friendly client, Eleanor Bennett, assuring her that they would move forward despite the snag, unaware that she had also hired the very rivals who had just sabotaged them. And now, without further ado, here's part 3, titled The Theory.
The team walked out of the Historical Society building and into the bright Florida morning sun. James Hawthorne was already halfway to the SUV, his pace fast and clipped.
"James, slow down," Anne said, catching his arm as he reached the vehicle. "I know that walk. Something's on your mind."
James stopped, his hand on the door handle. He looked back at Anne, Amanda, and Olivia, who had just caught up. "Yeah, sorry." He unlocked the car doors. "Let's get in the vehicle and then we can talk."
The group got into the vehicle, shutting the doors in sync as James started the engine and turned on the air. Anne then asked, "Okay, what's up?"
Hawthorne turned and looked at Amanda, then responded, "All right, Amanda found evidence that there may be 2 shipwrecks, not just one, as everyone else believes." He continued, "So I think we should go off this assumption, and I think we should not reveal this detail just yet to anybody else."
Prof. Amanda jumped in and said, "Yeah, I found evidence that there may have been 2 shipwrecks. There aren't a lot of details in the log information, but it is credible, and to our knowledge, no one else is looking at this theory."
"Okay, so what does this mean for us then?" Anne replied.
Starting with what we know to date, after Sir Francis Drake plundered treasure in the Caribbean, he sailed to what is now North Florida and proceeded to pillage and burn the small Spanish settlement of St. Augustine, where we are now. Of course, it didn't look like this back then. St. Augustine back in the 1500s was a small Spanish settlement. St. Augustine predates the famous English settlements of Jamestown and Plymouth by decades. Amanda, fill in the gaps for me, please, as you are the expert on this, James said as he put the vehicle in drive and started to leave the parking lot of the Historical Society.
"Sure," Amanda replied and then said, "Drake's expedition included over 20 ships. The exact number of ships is in question, but it's assumed there were 23 ships in total, so this was not a small raiding party." She continued, "Drake's raiding party included around 2,000 men. Now, after they raided and burnt the small St. Augustine settlement to the ground, Drake and his ships left loaded with all their plunder and treasure. Old records reported that Drake made off with at least 2,000 gold ducats. A ducat, which is a Dutch minted gold coin of around 98% pure gold, was used in Europe and other places as a medium of exchange for goods, services, and payments for work. It's thought that the 2,000 gold coins stolen by Drake were the treasury reserves for the Spanish troops that were stationed at St. Augustine at that time. It's also reported that Drake and his men captured and removed at least 14 bronze cannons. These also held great value as well, often becoming the spoils of war, as you could say." Amanda paused for a moment and then said, "Sorry, I hope I'm not boring you, but I think the details matter here."
"No, please go on. This is fascinating," Anne said with a smile.
Prof. Amanda then continues, "Now, there are small rumors, mostly among older English historians, that the plunder Drake stole from the settlement not only included the 14 cannons and the 2,000 gold coins, but also, and I quote here, other materials and contents of great value." Now, your guess is as good as mine as to what the other materials and contents of great value actually means. That's a mystery that has never been solved. What we do know is this. Though the 14 bronze cannons made it back to England eventually. However, the 2,000 gold coins did not. In fact, they simply disappeared. By the way, just one gold coin weighs about 3.5 grams. So, if each coin is 98% pure gold and higher, that means that 2,000 gold coins would be worth around. Wait, one moment. I need my calculator to do this. Amanda paused a moment as she pulled out her phone to look up the value of gold today, as well as to use her calculator to do some math. She found the value of gold and then punched in the numbers on her calculator and then said, okay, we have 2,000 gold coins weighing 3.5 grams each, which comes out to a total of 7,000 grams of gold. And gold today is worth about $148 per gram. So that puts the value of just the gold coins over $1 million. Then, if you add the historic value to the coins, I would venture to guess just the gold coins alone are probably worth several $100 million.
Sounds about right to me, James butted in. Let me interrupt you for a minute, he continued. I'm still headed in the direction of the coast. Hope that's okay. I figured we could drive up the coast a bit, not very far though, and it might help us understand the area. James then said, Amanda, please continue.
Sure, that's a good idea, Amanda replied and then continued with her history lesson. After Drake left the ashes of St. Augustine, he and his armada of ships sailed north towards Roanoke. Only 22 ships were recorded as making it to the Roanoke colony, which is in present-day North Carolina. This all happened during the month of May in 1586. And if you know anything about that time of year, well, it's hurricane season.
That makes sense. So you think that not one, but two of Drake's ships went down in a bad storm? Anne asked.
Theoretically, yes, Amanda replied. There is still an argument as to how many ships actually left St. Augustine when they sailed north along the coastline. A dozen or so sources had said 23 ships pushed out from the harbor, and only one source has said 24 ships were counted. That one source contradicted all the other sources. Amanda continues, so what happens when one source says something different than the other sources that are in agreement with each other?
Typically, we disregard the one source as inaccurate and focus on the other sources that are in agreement, Anne replies.
That's correct, and this is the normal practice in most academic disciplines. Amanda continues, 99% of the information I'm telling you is already public knowledge and has been for some time now. The public can access this information if they are willing to do the research, and most of it is taught in academia. The one big detail that is not taught in academia, and is the reason I was so motivated to come on this trip, is the two shipwreck theory. Now, the other piece to this puzzle, and what treasure hunters have been searching for, is what many of those sources referred to as the captain's kaha, the captain's strongbox. Some of the sources mentioned that a few survivors of the shipwreck were able to save the captain's kaha before the ship sank. Supposedly, this particular strongbox belonged to Drake's personal treasury secretary. Back then, an armada's treasury secretary would help distribute payments to the other ship captains during their pirating adventures. The survivors, not wanting to get caught by pursuing Spanish soldiers, supposedly buried the box after they reached the shore. However, no one knows where they buried it, and there's no evidence that the pirates had ever returned and retrieved it.
Interesting, Anne replied. So what was the contents of the captain's box? Do the sources say?
Amanda answers with a slight grin. Well, I'm glad you asked. Supposedly, this particular kaha, which is basically a small lock box, was kept in the captain's quarters. It was rumored to hold a bonus payment for each of the ship captains of Drake's fleet. The bonus was that each captain was going to receive a one-of-a-kind, specifically minted pure gold Spanish coin once they all returned to England.
Hawthorne, with his eyes on the road as he continues to drive up the outer coastline, jumps in and then says, the people who care about this story have all accepted the one shipwreck theory and believe it to be true, that it actually happened. Those in academia, general historians, and historical societies, both here in the U.S. and in England. The Spanish also had an interest in this at some point in the past, since it was their gold and valuables that were taken. Amateurs and professional treasure hunters have accepted this theory as true. However, no one has yet found a shipwreck or the so-called captain's kaha, or anything else for that matter. He continues, however, the one thing everyone agrees on is that there was a shipwreck. It happened somewhere between St. Augustine and Roanoke along the coastline.
And then adds, so if Drake left St. Augustine with 24 ships, not 23 ships, and he arrived at the Roanoke colony with only 22 ships, that means, according to your theory, 2 ships were lost at sea or sunk along the journey. Anne paused for a moment and then asked the obvious question out loud that everyone else was thinking. So if professional treasure hunters backed by governments with lots of resources and money have yet to find just one of the shipwrecks, then what chance do we have of learning anything new, let alone the location of one but 2 shipwrecks?
Meanwhile, chairs 3, 4, and 5 sat quietly in a small old minivan so as not to bring attention to themselves. They were parked just north of the Bridge of Lions and sitting in the main parking lot that serves Castillo de San Marcos National Monument, the old fort. They had conducted surveillance of the fort the day before and were now back again, just sitting in the car and waiting for orders on what to do next. They were quite bored and a little tired since this was not something they were accustomed to doing since joining the table. In fact, the longer they sat there in the car in the parking lot, the more they became uncomfortable. They didn't want to attract unwanted attention from the few security personnel who periodically made rounds. Third chair looked down at his watch and then said, "Man, we need to leave. We've been sitting here for over an hour this morning. The fort just opened to tourists and we're increasingly looking more suspicious just by sitting here in the parking lot."
I agree, fifth chair replied. I'm starting to feel a bit uncomfortable. Besides, we spent a good part of yesterday here, and we didn't really learn anything new. Maybe we should just leave and go somewhere else for the time being.
No, man, fourth chair mumbled. You heard what second chair said to us. Stay put until we get new instructions.
Just at that moment, third chair's phone dings. He pulls it out of his pocket, looks at the message, reads it, and then says, "Hey guys, it's second chair finally. She's telling us to leave and meet us back at the safe house."
I'm all for that, fifth chair replies and continues. What else does the message say?
Third chair responds, "We have a new directive from chair 1, and we'll need to pack up for a few days."
Interesting, fourth chair remarks. Anything's gotta be better than just sitting in this parking lot and watching tourists compete with each other for parking spaces.
Third chair had already started the car, put it in reverse, and was backing out of their parking space while fourth chair was still speaking. Third chair then said, "This place is a dead end anyway." And with that, chairs 3, 4, and 5 headed back to the safe house condo to meet with chairs 2 and 6 to get new instructions.
James Hawthorne had parked the car at a pull-off lot, which sat a few meters off one of the public beaches just north of the city center. As Anne, Amanda, and Olivia were walking toward the small wooden stairs that led down to the sand, James read the signboard out loud, which said, "Welcome to South Ponte Verde Beach Recreation Area."
Anne Hawthorne, who was walking in front of James, also commented, "I forgot how beautiful this part of the country was," she continued as they all made their way down the old wooden steps leading down to the sandy beach. "So, if we keep driving north, we eventually get to Jacksonville, right?"
Right, Amanda answered as she stopped walking on the hard sand and looked out toward the ocean.
And right there in front of us, as far as I can see, is the great Atlantic Ocean, James continued. Looking at the map here, this entire area seems to be quite shallow and marshy, probably not ideal for a large ship to get close to the shoreline.
Anne then said, "I think we should call that charter boating company and see if they could take us out on a quick trip around the harbor and up the coast a bit. It might be a good idea to see things from the water, to get a different perspective. James, you still have the business card you got from that guy at the restaurant, don't you?"
"I think I do," James says as he reaches into his pockets. "Ah, here it is." James reads a company and contact name on the card out loud. First Coast Charters, Robert Mitchell, owner. James then starts to punch the phone number into his phone and waits while it rings.
Amanda then says, "Yeah, I like that idea. However, I may have to sit that one out since I get really bad motion sickness. I'm going to check in with Olivia over there. Looks like she's getting some great photos and videos."
Anne, who's standing next to James, watches him wait while he has the phone to his ear, waiting for someone to pick up on the other end. She then asks, "Is anyone picking up?"
Hawthorne shakes his head no and then says, "I'll let it ring a few more times." Just as he is saying that last sentence, a person on the other end answers.
"Bobby here," Robert Mitchell says, with an excited and loud voice.
Hawthorne, a little surprised by the loud answer on the other side of the phone, then says, "Oh, hey, hello. My name is James Hawthorne, and I'd like to speak with Robert Mitchell, please, if he's available."
"That's me, sir. People around here just call me Bobby. I assume you have one of my business cards or found my number online," Bobby said with a half laugh.
"Oh, yes, I've got your business card right here. Will over at Will's Seafood Bar and Grill gave it to me," Hawthorne replied.
"Yep, no problem," Bobby says. "Will is always giving my card to out-of-towners. I swear, I get a third of my business through him," Bobby continues. "So, what can I do for you? Assuming you like to either go fishing, take a dinner cruise, or maybe both?"
Anne can hear the back and forth conversation James is having with Bobby. She taps James' arm and then says quietly, "If we charter a boat, don't forget to include our friends from the Historical Society. It would be helpful for them to come with us."
Hawthorne nods his head and then answers Bobby, "Well, neither. We'd really like to take more of a historical boat cruise through the harbor and then up the coastline for a short distance. We'd love to take the same route Sir Francis Drake took with his pirates. We are all kind of history nerds, if you know what I mean."
Bobby responds, "Okay, no problem. I can do that. How many people are we talking about?"
"There could be 5 or 6 people in our party," James responds.
"Got it," Bobby says and then continues. "We've got openings this week still with our large vessel. So what day are you thinking?"
"Could you pencil us in for tomorrow? I hope that's not too short notice," James answers.
"Not at all," Bobby replies. "I'll take you out personally. The weather looks to be quite nice in the morning. So come by our office down at the marina at 7 a.m. and we will try to push off around 7:30. I'll have you back by noon at the latest."
"All right, that sounds good. Appreciate it. And we'll see you tomorrow morning at 7. And with that, James ends the call.
"Sounds like things are set for tomorrow," Anne says.
"Yeah, we'll just need to confirm how many of us will be going, and we can figure that out later once we reconnect with Tom." James looks down at his watch and then says, "Let's head back to town. I think Amanda had a few more places we could visit today while we still have time."
As the four made their way off the beach and got back in the vehicle, Amanda said, "Let's first go visit the Cathedral Basilica of St. Augustine, whose congregation is known as the oldest Christian congregation in the United States." Amanda continues as James starts driving back to St. Augustine. The actual church building itself wasn't around that early, as it was constructed in the late 1700s and is now a national landmark. However, the congregation and its secrets date back to the 1560s, years before Drake pillaged the city. Anyway, maybe there's someone there we could talk to.
"Yup, it's in the GPS, and we can make a quick lunch stop along the way, if you're all up for it," James answers back.
Anne replies, "There you go again, always thinking about food first. But it does sound like a good idea."
Yeah, let's do lunch first. That will give us time to coordinate our schedule with Tom. Maybe one of them can come with us this afternoon, Amanda says.
Hawthorne looks into the rearview mirror at Amanda and Olivia and then says, "To lunch it is. Know of any other good food spots we can check out?"
Minna was pacing back and forth next to the large picture window in the condo, or what the table members were calling their safe house for now. Chair 6 was relaxing on the big, fluffy, soft couch in the middle of the room, tapping away on her laptop. "Any luck with getting the university IDs yet?" Minna asked 6.
"Yeah, I got a guy who said they will be delivered to P.O. Box 32 by 3 o'clock this afternoon," 6 responds.
"How reliable is this guy?" Minna asked.
"Well, I don't really know. With such short notice, I couldn't use our usual channel for this type of stuff. I had to find another backdoor network I've used in the past, well before joining our little group here. So, we'll see. And don't worry, I've covered our tracks. When we get the IDs, we just need to make sure the photos closely match the other chairs," 6 explains.
Just at that moment, Minna hears Dakota knock on the condo's door. "That must be the guides." She responds out loud as she walks over, looks at the security monitor, and then opens the door for chairs 3, 4, and 5.
Well, that was boring, Chair 4 says as he enters through the door first, with 3 and 5 following.
"We are back now and did what we were supposed to do," 3 replies as he looks at midnight. He then asks, So what is our new directive? And please tell me it's something more than surveillance work.
It is, Midnight responded. Have a seat and I'll brief you. It won't be boring, and it gets you out of town for a few days.
Good, because hanging out down there, here in this little quiet Florida town, is making me feel like I should just retire and start living the local lifestyle. 5 says with a bit of sarcasm.
6 sure looks up from her laptop and replies, very funny, 5. You and I both know that will never happen. You picked the wrong line of work, bro.
As Chair 6 pulls up a link on her laptop and connects it to the large TV, Midnight starts explaining the mission. You guys are heading to Jacksonville this evening for a few days and will be tasked with the following. Midnight paused for a moment, waiting for 6 to pull up an image of Eleanor Bennett along with a street map of her home and her office. Here we go. Midnight continues. Find out all you can about this lady. According to First Chair, she is actually helping finance, unbeknownst to her, our little mission. And he believes she is also helping finance a small local team as well. Either way, we want to know more about her and what her motivation is. And we need to keep this super confidential as this is an internal table order.
That's it? 5 blurts out. Another surveillance job?
J6 notices Midnight's expression changes to annoyance, and then replies, well, if you'd be quiet, we can finish.
Midnight continues while avoiding eye contact with 5. You will also gain access to the Forensics Research Lab at the University of North Florida, where you will authenticate one of these documents 6 retrieved from the Historical Society. Midnight holds the 2 old documents, now in protective plastic sleeves, while 6 pulls up a campus map of the university showing the exact building the lab is located.
And how will we gain access? 4 questions with a polite and professional tone.
Thank you, and I'm glad you asked. Midnight responds. 6, please explain. She then motions over to Chair 6.
One of you will go to St. Augustine Post Office at 4 p.m. today and pick up a package from P.O. Box 32. Here's the key. She says this as she places the key to the P.O. box on the glass coffee table in the middle of the room. In it, you'll find a package containing 3 university IDs, which will allow you to access to the building and research lab on the UNF campus. Once in the lab, you will need to authenticate both of these documents. Without authentication, this entire thing can't move forward, and we don't get paid. So this is a very important step.
Chair 3, who had been very quiet up until this point, then says, understood. We can do this and we'll do it. The document authentication should not take long, maybe a few hours max. And the other task, following Mrs. Bennett around, well, this could take a few days for us to gain some actionable insight First Chair would be happy with. He then says, I'll go get the package at the post office at 4.
Thank you, Midnight responds.
Chair 6 then adds, make sure you wear a plain hat when you approach and go inside the post office. There are cameras everywhere. The last thing we need is for your face to come up on a federal database somewhere.
Understood and will do. 3 says as he walks into the condo's small kitchen, opens the refrigerator, and then curses out loud. Bleak. Come on, who drank the last Peroni?
The Eldorado team had just finished their lunch, and it was already close to 1 p.m. Amanda leaned forward and rested her elbows on the small cafe table, looked at Olivia, and said, so what do you think? Is this what you thought it would be like?
Olivia thought to herself and then said, I'm actually not sure what I expected. I mean, I'm basically just trying to capture what I can in photos and videos, when it's appropriate, of course. She continued, when I compared this to the Mexico trip, I like this experience better because I feel like my contribution here will be more valuable. And I'm excited to, in a way, be on a treasure hunt.
Interesting, Amanda replied as she leaned back in her chair and smiled. I never really thought of it that way, that this trip is like a treasure hunt. It kind of adds a bit more excitement to our little adventure here.
At that moment, Hawthorne walked up and said, I just took care of the bill. You guys ready to go?
Yep, Amanda said as she and Olivia stood up from their table and started to make their way to the front door, where Anne was already standing. We can head directly over to the church. I had a short call with Tom during lunch. Tom is still at the police station, meeting with Lieutenant Walsh. So, he said, he's sending Cece to meet us at the church and to introduce us to John Tanner, the caretaker who lives on site. Tom said that Cece and John will be able to answer any questions we may have about the old church and any secrets it holds. And maybe, just maybe, we'll find something to verify our theory.
And that brings us to the end of this episode. From Patrick's insights on the learner's mindset and NASA research to part 3 of the mystery of St. Augustine. If you enjoyed this episode, please hit that subscribe button, leave us a review, and make sure to tune in next time as we continue to explore the stories that shape our world. And as always, this podcast would not be possible without the hard work and support of our international student production team.
All music and sound effects are courtesy of Pixabay.com, a vibrant community of creatives sharing copyright-free images, videos, and music.
And we're signing off until next time. We are Students Incorporated because your voice matters.